Thank you, sir. Thank you, Jaime Rodriguez, Dr. and Dr. Rodriguez, and Maricela Rodriguez. My name is Steve Keough. I'm a resident of San Antonio, not Burlington, Vermont, or any place right now. That was much younger when that happened. I'm here to run, to be the senator from the great state, really a nation state in many ways, of Texas. And we do that by defeating Ted Cruz. As I mentioned, I live in San Antonio, and that's partly because I teach law at St. Mary's University Law School. And that's as you may know, a Hispanic serving institution, which is a federal designation, very similar to an HBCU type designation. But I'm very proud to be part of that faculty. My background includes 30 years as a United States Navy officer. So I'm a retired veteran. I'm a submariner, so a lot of people give me a hard time about being a bubblehead. That's the nickname for submariners. I'm just getting that out here so nobody says that to me. I'll probably hear it from some GOPers though. But in that course of training, starting at the Naval Academy, and then over many decades of experience, you learn about leadership and the pillars of leadership. And good leaders take care of their people. Has Mr. Cruz taken care of people? No. Has Mr. Abbott taken care of people? No. So people ask me, why am I running? And I say, to take care of people. It ain't that hard. All of you who have taken care of all relatives and friends, children, seniors, it isn't that hard. You just have to care here. You have to care about it. That's what good leaders are. That's a starting point. It's one of the pillars in every major religion in the world. Take care of people less fortunate, take care of people. One of the other reasons of many that I come to this race is that I have a master's degree in congressional studies that I obtained in Washington, D.C. My undergrad was at, I mentioned, the Naval Academy and then law school at Boston College. But in studying and doing constitutional and congressional related activities for decades, both as a military officer and a civilian, I realized the importance of governments that work. And I've been in revolutions in other countries. I've been there. I've been in Tehran the day the Shah left. In fact, let me talk about that for a minute, because when you look at what I bring to bear as a U.S. Senator, your U.S. Senator, I have very good experience in foreign policy. And it started very early in my life, but about a year or so after I graduated from the Naval Academy, I came off submarine strategic patrol, flew back from East Asia, arrived in Hawaii, and got a message from my father. It was an arranged message that he needed help. My father was a school superintendent of the Tehran American School, and this was January 1979. The message came in at the end of December. By then, he and the embassy realized that we needed to get people out, but we needed to do it without causing a panic for the Shah's government. At the time, our ally. But there was a revolution that was moving in slowly and steadily and encircling Tehran. The message that he and I had prearranged was for me to take certain actions, which I did. The first action was to let my ship know I was going to be on vacation for a month, which is what we normally do after patrol. So that was good. That was the easy part. The next part was to find a big airplane that was available and get it flown into Tehran on a certain day in the middle of a revolution. And then, no problem, loaded up with about 115 people that comprised teachers, U.S. teachers, Iranians who had worked with the school administration, and, believe it or not, military officers who knew this was their last chance to get their families out, including, as it turns out, the general who was in charge of the airport. He was the last person on that plane. So I did that. You know, let's just do the right thing. Take care of people. That was a lesson in both foreign policy for me, surviving those crowds, and it wasn't easy. We had some close calls, but maybe another day we'll talk about that. That was one example of, by the way, we all got out, and unfortunately, several months later, in November of '79, my father was there to get the school records for the students. The school records didn't get off the docks in time before the revolution hit. So those students, some of you know, they need their records to get into college or to go to other jobs. Those records had been seized, but the embassy said, "Oh, it's okay, Dr. Keough, you can come in now." That was November 3rd. November 4th, as he was in the embassy fell, unfortunately, and he was taken hostage for 444 days. So when he did get freed, I said, "Geez, you know, I got you out once. What's the deal, Dad?" He looked at me like a big Boston Irishman can, and he was like, "Don't ask that again." But look, it's about having the chops, having the experience. I also, many years later, served for 2 presidents, assigned to the Threat Reduction Advisory Council Committee, the Presidential Advisory Committee that President Clinton put me on, along with several members of Congress, and it was designed to oversee the U.S. defense establishment, a civilian panel, very elite group of folks, except for me. What we did is we made sure that weapons of mass destruction threats against the United States weren't going to happen on this watch. And they didn't. I was assigned to the nuclear side, nuclear weapons abatement. I continued on that through another president, W. So both President Clinton and President Bush, that was some of my access to the halls of power and understanding how foreign policy works and why for this most strategic stretch of the American coastline, right here, we're in the middle of it. This is it. The most strategic stretch of the U.S. coastline. Industrial, economic, people, size of our city and complex here, universities, greatest medical centers, my wife would say except for the Mayo Clinic where she's from. But, you know, it's the truth. So these are really important issues to all of us, and they should be a part of your U.S. Senators' background and capabilities, understanding those issues before they get on the job. I'll finish with a short description of what I did for pro-democracy work. If you don't think I'm all for a constitution that works and a government that works, then let's talk just a moment about pro-democracy efforts in the 90s, the early 90s, after the Soviet Empire fell. I went in and worked the ground. You talk about block walking. Try block walking in Russia. Yeah. Particularly in the winter. Didn't mind if it let you in, then it was so cold. But Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, now known as Kyrgyzia, and Uzbekistan, the roughest of the 3. I've been pushed around, abandoned. In fact, I was abandoned in the middle of Kazakhstan by the Supreme Court Chief Justice at one point. He was very pissed at me. But I was there working with judges, attorneys, presidents of those republics, in person, saying, these are some transition items that might be helpful to you as you transition to democracy. That's what we were doing behind the scenes back then. Those are some of the things that I've done. And I do have other capabilities. I have a wonderful wife who's a doctor at a free clinic. That's my greatest asset. I have 4 adult daughters. Thank you. They have always kept me honest. The 4 adult daughters are wonderful, and yet they have lost rights recently because of a failure of the U.S. Congress Judiciary Committee to stop several judges from being corrupt on the U.S. Supreme Court. And yes, I am an attorney. It's shameful that I have to even say that, but it is the truth. And we don't want that to be the casualty in all this either. So that's a little bit more about me, but I would love to meet each of you in a setting where we could talk more about stories and understand the integrity that I was grown up with and the interest I have in various issues in foreign policy, as well as economics and business and jobs, and ensuring that people working outside in the Texas heat get water breaks. What in the name of goodness is going on here? This is wrong. So we can do these things. We can make these changes. And I bring kind of a different background, but any one of us and the other candidates I've met are miles and miles ahead on all of these categories than the chump that's in that seat right now. It is disgraceful wherever I go in the United States, even in the world. People say, isn't your senator that Cruz guy? I say, yes it is. Oh, I hope you beat him. Okay. Well, let's do it, okay? Thank you.